Greetings, good people. I'm Krista Powers of Potere Coaching, and as a life coach, I get to do one of my dreams, one of the things that I am deeply passionate about, which is helping people to grow. And I'm specifically really committed to helping people who are caring for aging loved ones. So as part of that, I have teamed up with the HIP Senior, and I'm delighted to be a contributing writer for the publication. Certainly, if you have not yet had an opportunity to check out last week's article and the first of 3 interviews in this series, I invite you to do that and to just sit back and enjoy the next 15 or 20 minutes with us here today. So thanks for being part of this. I am joined today by my friend Frank DiLallo, who is an author and the owner of the Consulting and Training Services, LLC. Frank, you and I met back when I was in high school and you were the pastoral counselor there. Honestly, from years of high school through many decades now, I've always been really deeply touched with what a man of peace and purpose and action that you are. That just is infused in you. And I've always been really touched by your enduring commitment to pursuing your passion. So I'm just so grateful to have you here as we talk about vision and dream and life with purpose and intentionality. So I guess we'll just jump on in. I'd love to ask you, how long has peace been a passion for you, and where did that come from?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful to be with you, so thank you. And I'll tell you, it started early on. I came from a very chaotic family, so I knew early on, probably late teens, that I needed to do some personal work to find a place of peace inside. And that was a struggle beginning then, and it's been a lifelong part of my work, is just to find inner peace by letting go of early trauma and finding that peaceful place inside, which we all have, by the way. It's just taking the time to notice and to be present to it. And then it really struck me probably in the early 90s when I went to the high school that you're mentioning as a staff member, as pastoral counselor. And the first workshop that I went to there was on classroom management. And a man played a song called Howard Gray. And long short of it is that it's about a young man who befriended another young high school student and ends up bullying him and feels a lot of regret around it. And some 20 years after high school or more, ended up writing a song to this individual and essentially asking him for forgiveness. And it's a beautiful redemption story. And I sobbed in this classroom management training that I was in, and it was a wake-up call for me on how did I treat others? And out of my angst and lack of peace that I was experiencing in my life, was I taking it out on other people and targeting other people and kind of displaced aggression, if you will, and displacing my early hurts on other people. So I noticed it then, and the culmination of my career and all of that and skills was really struck when Columbine came, and it had a huge impact on the world, I know, but a huge impact on me, because at that point I was a schools consultant for all of the Catholic schools in Northwest Ohio, and was reflecting on my time as pastoral counselor at the high school, and imagine what that would be like if something like that happened to those coworkers and people I loved and adored, and students that I just cared deeply about. And it was unfathomable. And said I need to do something, and began to work on something called Peace Be With You, which is a curriculum and work on helping students, um, be okay with each other, be good to each other and with each other, and to support one another, rather than this mistreatment that often happens, not only in childhood, but adulthood, right, as we know. And so early on, I wanted to help students to pay attention to that and to find peace inside of themselves so that they could be peaceful with others.
Frank, it's powerful. There's so much of what you said, even just back in that training, listening to that song and having that deep emotional reaction. To me, it just speaks of your willingness, your awareness of what happened to you when you heard that, and your willingness to kind of receive the depth of the heartache of that song and then pursue. And I guess, if you go all the way back to then and think about hearing that song for the first time, over time, your work has really unfolded and grown. Have you always known?
As have I.
Yeah, like humanity, right?
Right. Right.
Have you always known the next step? And if not, how have you taken the journey?
I've not always known the next step, and sometimes I have doubts and frustrations and all that, but that's a part of the process too. The uncertainty is okay. It's not comfortable, but I know that as long as I'm doing my work, my personal work, and looking inside and doing, continuing to take that and do something with it in writing or in interacting with others, that the path is laid out, that it just gets clearer as you go along. It's just not always totally crystal clear, and there's doubts, but it gets clear as you go along, and then it gets muddled up again. And then you do some more work, and then it gets clearer again. And so, there's a meandering, if you will, but it always comes down to truth and, um, just doing the right thing and respecting others, and, others and things that they say and do guide me as well. And
Yeah.
I so want to keep a beginner's mind. It doesn't mean I'm a beginner. I mean, I've got enough age and wisdom about me that I could go to a very arrogant place, but I don't. I mean, I like keeping a beginner's mind and staying open and fresh, to new ideas and new vantage points, and that's been helpful for me. It's not always easy, but it's helpful. It's growthful.
Yeah. I
So it has
love
been a
that.
journey.
I love that. A beginner's mind. That feels like a little nugget. I mean, I always get nuggets from you, little lessons, but that's just such an easy little, write that word up somewhere for myself or put it on my phone, or just to re-invite myself into keeping a beginner's mind.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked before a little bit about just essentially the whole concept of human beings versus human doings, right? And we get so caught up in the tasks of life and the minutia sometimes, and responsibilities and success and progress, and some of that's really good, and some of it's, maybe we need to push back on. How do you find balance between doing and taking action and moving forward, and creating space for yourself to dream, to grow, to meditate, to kind of go to a place where you can find peace and then charge ahead again?
Yeah. I there's an ebb and flow to all that. There's signs for me, just like there's signs for everybody, that you just need to pay attention to them. I notice that if I'm feeling irritated, with doing a particular task, irritable, grouchy, or fatigued, or overwhelmed, that's usually a sign. I'm not that it's complete burnout, but it's like I need a break from that. So it's time to pause the output so that I can move over to some input. And part of that input is to just pause and reflect and meditate and pray. And, I live in the mountains now, so I could take an incredible hike and just breathe in what's around me and
Mm.
touch the fir trees and the huge boulders that I'm walking around. Just stop and kind of feel that vibration, And
Legitimate grounding.
yeah, and then I'm ready. It's like,
Mhm.
and that may take a few days. It may take, a few hours, uh, but just take that time. It's a recharging, uh, re, re, recharge, regenerate, rejuvenate, and then go back to it. And
Mm.
uh, and it doesn't feel so much like doing it. There's more of a flow that
Mm.
happens with it. So I read those signs, and that's really important to me to know. Because oftentimes when we're doing and we keep pushing the envelope, it, something happens that forces us to
Mm.
move the other direction. An injury
Yeah.
or just tremendous fatigue that we're so exhausted, that we can't function.
Mhm.
And it's certainly not healthy to get it to that point, but there's usually something that switches us over to having to do the other.
Mhm.
It's great to just be aware and to make that
Sure.
maneuver over. It doesn't always happen that way, but
Sure.
that's
You
ideal.
mentioned, no, I love that. You mentioned that each of us has a place of peace within
Mhm.
us. Can you say a little bit more about that? I mean,
I
that might be a novel idea to some people.
Yeah, I really believe that. I think that we all are given this gift of peace inside. And there's a spiritual element to this, and if we think about the compassion of Christ, or uh, any uh, person, like, I mean, Buddha, or
Mhm.
so I don't want to go into Eastern, Western, or any of that, but that they come from a place of compassion. it, there's there's a source for
Mm.
that, and a depth to that, and all this doing. So the connected to the doing oftentimes glosses that over, and we keep pushing outside of ourselves to do more, and we don't notice that peaceful place inside. And I think that a part of us, kind of a sub personality, if you will, feels angst about that,
Mm.
and then starts to self-sabotage and do all kinds of squirrely things, to get our attention. And we get mad at that part, and then we fight, so there's all this internal conflict that gets generated and accumulates, and then we wonder why we have, all kinds of ailments and
Mm.
disease and sickness. And so we I think it's important that we daily pay attention to that
Mm.
place of peace, that we nurture it,
Mhm.
and we see it as our sense of self, but a deeper self,
Mhm.
and that we acknowledge it, we notice it, we pay attention to it, we nurture it, and from that, there's a wellspring,
Mm.
of sourcefulness and resourcefulness that comes when we do that kind of nurturing.
Yeah. So
Um,
just as you and I are not causing ourselves to breathe, that's like the easiest way for me to remember source. There's something else here working with me
yeah,
that's
yeah,
breathing through me,
right.
right? So that I can be all these other things and create all these other things. But yeah, that word source, and just to start to get familiar with it.
Mhm.
I my experience is also, when I do that and get to that space, my dreaming becomes more alive. and exciting and available, which propels everything forward.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you maybe a weird question, but I teed you up for it before, so it's not unexpected. What retirement? If I throw that out there to you, knowing that you are really working on creating something that pushes the norm and helps heal society and individuals in the community, what does retirement mean to you as it rubs up against something that is your life's work?
Well, I'll tell you, I just ended a 30-year career with the Diocese of Toledo um, last July, actually last June. And it's surreal. And
Mm,
I guess you can call me in retirement or semi-retirement right now. I'm still having trouble wrapping my brain around it because it's still so new, even though it's been June 6, 7 months ago. I I I don't know. I think the only thing is I'm a bit out of sorts with a routine. So
okay.
there's a different kind of discipline that goes along with, doing A, B, C, D, at certain times. And so that's been a bit strange for me. Um, but I tell you, I love the freedom right
Mm,
now. I feel a tremendous sense of relief because I had a lot of responsibility when I was there, and some pretty intense responsibilities for some things. And I welcomed that. I mean, it was a tremendous challenge. But you get to a point where it's time to move on, and it's time to have some fresh eyes on some things. Um, and I don't know that my eyes are getting tired, and that I just felt that they needed a shift and to move on. So I moved in July to Boulder, Colorado, which has just been incredible. It's just an amazing part of the country, and um, I'm loving this right now, like loving the
mm,
freedom, feeling relief that I don't have the same kind of duties and responsibilities day in and day out, and even beyond the workday. Man, I was essentially on call
mm,
24/7 in a lot of what I did. It was often very stressful, very challenging, not only professionally but personally, because there was a lot of emotion connected to it, a
mm,
lot of working with a lot of victims, of child sexual abuse, adults that came forward after being abused by a priest, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 plus
mm,
years afterwards. A lot of accumulated emotion. We talk about stuff getting
mhm,
inside, and that to connect that to peace, that tends to overwhelm and overshadow that place of peace. And so all those folks that come forward wanting to find is some resolution, a sense of
mm,
peace. And my work was to help get them through a lot of what has accumulated over the years, and it's very challenging
mm.
to do that um, because some of them didn't make it. They ended up taking their lives because they couldn't do it. It was just too overwhelming
Yeah,
to pay attention to.
it's I hope that the people watching this can feel what I know of you and what I feel with you, even, in a Zoom interaction across several states right now. Your own presence is so peaceful,
Mm.
Frank. And I know you are actively working through, stuff of life and stuff of your heart. And yet you have really pursued this mission and this dream and this knowing of peace with such focus that you are now it. Like, I mean, I feel it
Thank
in
you.
you. And I know that today isn't focused on, it's more kind of the stuff of you than necessarily your work. I do want to just give you a chance real quick to mention a website if people want to know more about you.
Yeah, peacebewithyou.world.
Awesome.
Peace be with you, spelled out, .world. Yeah, and that, that URL was important to me too. My wife actually found the .world, which I thought was cool. And because this really has been that kind of initiative for me. When I did my first audio CD called The Peace Project, which was released 2 months after 9/11, so in 2001. And I knew that this was important work for me anyway. And putting that CD out there, even though it may have felt like kind of a drop in the bucket or a spit in the wind, I felt like I had to do it for me as a part of my transformation, part of my work, part of my mission, and just to put it out there. And then it's evolved from there, and there's close to 10 books that are out now, and curricula, Peace Be With You, and Bullying Redirect. So a lot on bullying and mistreatment, and how we can use strategies that I've come up with and worked hard on, and have kind of come from my field testing in classrooms, all across the country. It's been very, very exciting work and exciting transformation, for me as well.
Yeah, and the first drop in the bucket is now a lake, and it's an ocean to come, and it's
I'd like
meaningful.
to think so.
It's
Yeah.
meaningful. So I
Yeah.
encourage people to check it out. And I just want to thank you. I could visit with you for hours. Again, I encourage people to pursue seeing what you're doing if they're interested. And really though, to plug into the essence of what's source, when I get to a place of some peace and some, curiosity and awareness, what bubbles up in me? What are those dreams? What's that vision that I can start to play with, and write them down and start to have conversations about them. So thank you so very much, my friend. This has been wonderful. Next week, our third interview will be with my friend Sandy Stonebreaker, who is a feisty redhead in her 7th decade of life, who's just doing awesome stuff. So come and join us next week. We'll make a posting with that, and definitely check out thehipsenior.com to see all these articles. They actually have an article about benefits of adopting animals, who seem to like to be in all the Zoom meetings. So yeah, check out all the articles. And thank you again, Frank. You are a man of peace, a man of goodness, a man of vision, and I am grateful for you in the world.
Thank you for the opportunity, Krista. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.